We now have 20 minutes.
So the recording is now on.
Okay, call to order the Lowell City Council special meeting for Wednesday, April 29th at 5:38. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bennett,
Here.
Councilor Stratus,
Here.
Councilor
Harris.
Councilor Harris,
Here.
Councilor Drott.
Here.
I got caught up on Councilor Angelini. I apologize.
Yeah, she's not
I
here.
hit that and then hit a blank.
She's not.
Okay, we'll do the pledge of, I'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Okay, tonight, any changes to the agenda by anybody? Hearing none. Okay, let's go down. No public comments, I take it. Hearing none. No council comments. Hearing none. New business, advertising bid documents. Mr. Cobb, you want to introduce this?
Yes, so Mayor Bennett and Council, as you know, we've talked quite a bit about these two street projects. And our city engineer has gone ahead and put together the bid specs for the project, as well as the advertisement to go out to bid. And so I'll go ahead and open that now and share that with you. And I don't know if he is on or not. I did send the information. He thought he was going to be able to make it tonight, but I'm not seeing him on the call.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and share this with you, though. I send it by email, but this might just be easier. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so this is an advertisement to go out to bid. The engineer would like to put this out pretty much immediately and have it close no later than May 21st. Although I'm looking at the date and we probably should change it to 2020.
It's a good call.
So essentially what this does is it lists all of the improvements that are required as a part of the bid. So you've got Schedule 1, which handles Main Street pavement and utility improvements, and then Schedule 2, which handles Lakeview Street pavement and utility improvements. And of course, we have a set of plans that supports all of these as well. The alternates, of course, we're not going to have a pre-bid conference for this project. And then we've got the bid alternates, which we've discussed as being the sidewalk. And let's see, let me open. Hopefully you can see this. This is the set of plans for Main Street. This one was pretty straightforward. So this is the section of Main. Hopefully you can see my cursor, and hopefully it's not being buggy like it is for me right now. Mine is flashing.
Yeah, we see it.
Sorry about that. But it's the full length of East Main Street. Here you can see where the dashed line, which Max, are you still on the call?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Hey, Jared, this is Matt. I'm here too now.
Oh, good.
Okay. Oh, great. My savior. So we're just getting through the basics of the advertisement. And so I'm on Main Street now. Of course, my computer's being extremely buggy, but was just showing the section of Main Street that's proposed to be replaced. And then the water line as well, which should be that yellow marker, correct, Matt?
I'm
Sorry, you're on the phone, aren't you?
It's the the sheet you're on is just the paving. The yellow there is just the center line stripe. Is that what I've asked?
Go to the next one then. There we go.
Yep,
Here's the water.
that's water line.
And so the water line basically runs a little bit north of, I guess, the center line, it looks like. And then, Matt, if you would just explain this little stub out to the north. I know we've discussed it, but the purpose of that.
Sure. There's an existing, I think it's a 2-inch service line that serves the park, as well as I believe 1 or 2 of the houses north of the coffee shop there. And the thought was to put in a 6-inch line that would run down the alignment of Cannon Street, that ultimately when Cannon Street is developed, that 6-inch line could get continued and tied into North Shore. And so then the service line for both the park and those houses would come off of that lateral.
Right. So trying to plan ahead a little bit on this project.
So the other 2 laterals to the west of that 6-inch, are those going to be future services for the park?
Yeah, I believe that those are existing laterals that actually have meters on them that are serving something. There was a third one there east or west of that we're actually taking out and not replacing.
And Max, one of these was for wasn't this one for taking water samples?
Yeah, so one of the service connections, the one shown in the middle there, is for a required water test that we take. The other 2 lines will be abandoned.
So the one actually, and it says do not reconnect lateral, but the one in the far west, we actually don't need then.
Correct.
Okay. So if the future bathroom that I think we've seen on drawings, a possibility or water within the park would come off that 6-inch stub that we're leaving on Cannon?
Correct.
Okay.
And the reason we put it on that west side of the street so that if we do have any other connections, it's available there. And then when we eventually redo Cannon Street, we will just make sure to have a lateral that runs across Cannon so we don't have to tear it up again in the future.
Okay.
Main. Any other questions on Main Street?
No. Not hearing any. You can go on.
Okay. Oh, I wish I could figure out what I'm doing this. So that's Main. Let me open Lakeview because I'm sure that's one we've got questions on. Okay. So we'll start here. This is at the corner of Pioneer and Lakeview here. And then Matt, if you want to go ahead and just explain these couple different areas here and what we're showing.
Yeah, the condition of Lakeview there is worse generally than on Main, and so most of Lakeview is gonna have to have a full pavement replacement, and the green area there is an area that's in a little bit better condition. It's just gonna have the grind and overlay. And so these areas that are shown both on Lakeview and on Main are going to be subject to kind of a field determination. When the contractor comes out there, we'll go out there with them and mark on the street the actual limits based on the condition of the pavement at that time. But that's the intent of the 2 different hatches there. Is one's a deep patch and one's just a grind and overlay.
And then as far as the as far as the curb, we just have the flush curb on the south side of the street and the upright on the north side, correct?
Correct, and that's set up to be an additive alternate in the bid. So the base bid will just be the pavement work. We'll have an alternate for the water line, an alternate for the curb, and then another alternate for the sidewalk. So we'll be able to choose how much of it you want to do based on the bids as they come in.
Okay. And then I guess the final question that I have is on and I'll go back, on the sidewalk up against the building, how is that included? Was that an additive, or was it alternate, or was that the base?
It is bid as part of the additive alternate. So
Okay.
all of the sidewalk is an additive alternate. We can look and adjust that if the city decides they don't want to do sidewalk. We can take the unit prices and apply them and do a change and just apply that section of the sidewalk to the base contract.
Okay. So just so the council is aware, one of the, I guess, concerns that we had, as you know, was the safety of this section in particular, because it's sunken down, and the whole sidewalk is, if you walk it, it kind of it starts up high at Pioneer, drops down, comes around the building, and there are a few other grade changes as you go all the way down to Moss Street. So it's definitely not something that we would build today if we were to start fresh. But this section in particular, as you know, it drops down quite a bit for this area. And so we looked at a few options. We looked at some type of guardrail. When we were, a few weeks ago, Max and I walked it, and the question that we threw out to Matt was, could you, we know that we were basically planning to put a retaining wall on this south side of the sidewalk. And so the question became, well, what happens if we just put the retaining wall on the north side of the sidewalk and build the sidewalk up to basically the normal street grade so that it would better meet these ADA ramps and be a little safer? And so Max and I met with the school district about that, because there's a few modifications that they would have to make. And my understanding, and Max, you can correct me, but the school district was pretty much on board with that and didn't have any real major concerns. That right, Max? Because that was in the meeting that I had with them. I know there were a couple things they wanted to look into, but they didn't really have any concerns with that.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep, they were in full support of it.
So essentially, we'd be burying a couple of rows of block on that building is what would happen.
Yeah, so they've got a door on this side, which wasn't the safest because it basically enters right onto the sidewalk and then into traffic. And then there's a vent that they'd already moved once before just to the west of the door. And so they would have to raise up the vent. And then the door, they've actually met with our building inspector to relocate the door.
So I have a question when that's appropriate.
Sure.
So I was approached by the folks down there at the little church and down on the west end on the corner.
Uh-huh.
And they were wondering, not for free, but would there be any way that they could get that spot that's their quote parking there on Lakeview paved while we were paving the road? And what would that cost to do that? I don't know if that's something we could do or not. I just said I would ask the question.
So it would certainly be cheaper if they had it done while there were folks already on site. I'd have to look at that area and see how that would be worked in. One of the things we did was we put in the flushed curb and really didn't think any further than they have gravel parking just because, yeah, I'd have to think. I'd have to go out there and look at that too, just because then it's really a permanent thing and it's in city right of way. So I'm not really sure what would be the right answer to that. I mean, certainly
Okay.
asphalt would be better than gravel.
Right, and it may not be something we can do, but I told them I'd throw it out there, and it might even be an expense they wouldn't be able to. I don't have a clue what that would cost them.
It might also be
Right.
something that they just contact the contractor directly, and we can even facilitate it, and
Right.
talk to the contractor and say, hey, on the side, can you pave this as you're paving everything else, and then it's not, part of your contract with the contractor. You're not worried about quantities. You just you let him do it on the side if he wants to.
Okay. So, but then the question, Jared, might be that if that's part of the city right away, can they do that?
And there should be a way for them to do it. I'm just thinking that there will be some things we need to look at only because it's at the corner. And so making sure, and Matt, feel free to correct me, but just making sure that we have the right vision clearance areas and that if it's going to be permanent parking, that it's set up so that it's safe on that intersection.
Well, right, and remember, they've already got the one corner blocked off, so people won't park there because the buses have to turn there. So they're
Right.
kind of used to not parking all the way down just because of that.
Right.
So,
I think Matt's suggestion is a good one, though. I mean, we can certainly help facilitate
no,
it.
that sounds like that would be the perfect way to do it. So we would just have to help them, talk to them. And like I said, it may be something they can't afford, but I think they wanted to look into it.
So jumping back to the other end of the street, the conversation we were having a minute ago, I'll be real quick because I know we're running short. I think we're aiming, our plan is a safer solution than what exists at the time. However, I will say that I still have concerns that the narrow sidewalk and a block wall still provides for a possibility of a crushing injury for a person walking along that section of sidewalk. But the best safe solution would have been to put some sort of device to keep the cars from being able to get there at all. We're better, and that's good. And I understand, and it works better with the alignment for the sidewalks to have continuity and stuff. But I still think that it's still an unsafe situation because of a 3.5, 4 foot sidewalk and a block wall that it's real easy, to get for somebody to get crushed. So.
We do have a detail on there for handrail that was intended to kind of be that barrier between the roadway and the sidewalk when we were talking about having the sidewalk down lower, and we can certainly install that still between the pavement and the sidewalk if we wanted to. But just having it a one-way street and not having that turning movement of someone turning in and
I
not
agree.
fully making that turn is going to help.
I agree. I think it's a lot better than it was.
Good. I didn't see you guys in a while, so I was wondering about that.
Not having a door there is probably, frankly, better too, only because, I don't know how much fun it would be to have the door opened on you as you're walking down the sidewalk. I wonder how many times that's happened.
Truly.
All right. Here, you can show me. Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have any
There
more
any other-
questions?
Put up all that stuff and put it in nice flowers.
That's cool. That's cool. You want to do that? That'd be
Good
fun.
deal. I gotta go up there and spray the rest of it.
We can do that.
Okay, where are we now? We ready for a motion, or we want more discussion, or where are we?
So those were the things that I wanted to cover with you all. Just want to make sure we were all on the same page before we sent it out.
Really focus.
And so at this point, it would just be a motion to advertise the request for bids.
Okay.
I got
Do we have a motion to advertise request for bids?
I'll make a motion. We advertise for requests for bids for the Main Street and Lakeview Street improvements.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go out to bid for advertise for bids for the Main Street and Lakeview. Any further discussion?
The city council's finishing up a meeting real quick.
Okay, not hearing any. All those in favor of advertising for bid documents for Main Street and Lakeview signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes. Second item up is consideration of parks use permit. Mr. Cobb?
Yes, Mayor Bennett and council, I'll be brief on this one. Mid last week, I was approached by the farmers market about them having their market start on May 17th. Prior to that, I think a month earlier, they had sent an email to me, and in their minutes it stated when they wanted to start. So we hadn't really had a direct conversation when they were wanting to start. So it kind of came up quickly. You know, I wanted to make sure that staff was able to reach out to some of the other communities to see what they're doing, because honestly, I just hadn't even looked at it. We're working on budget and other things. Long story short, almost all the other farmers markets are still moving forward. They have put in a number of different, they've modified their operations to where they're more like an outdoor grocery store than a farmer's market. It's not a big social event. The governor did provide an exception to farmers markets, declaring them an essential business. And so they do have the ability in our current environment to operate. The question was whether or not, because it is public property, in our declaration, which ends May 19th, did state that, you know, we were following the governor's recommendations and we wouldn't have.
He muted himself.
That exception that does. But I wanted to bring that to you all and just to get your feedback, your comments. They want to start on May 17th, so that's 2 days before the order is out.
Are we going to reinstate the order?
That's a good question. At this point, because of the guidance that we've gotten from the governor and it's a discussion among city managers, it's looking like I will not recommend extending it at this point.
Okay.
That could change, but right now all the information we're getting is that we would recommend not to. There would still be other changes to operations, so I don't want people to take that the wrong way. It's not going to be business as usual, but some of those tools I don't think we will need at this point. But again, all subject to change.
Yeah. Well, if they're abiding by the guidelines that's set down by the governor, and we're abiding by the guidelines set down by the governor, if she's saying that they can go ahead and have their markets, then I think that we just let the rules as they apply comply to them, and I would say let it go. I'm not sure how many people will be out there.
Truly.
That was my concern, is that not having, at least right now, not having other activities to do, that it could be quite busy. And so I try to make it clear to them that they're going to have to police this quite a bit, and that will be on them. I discussed with our city attorney, and his recommendation was, there wasn't a recommendation, but he said, well, you might want to have staff down there monitoring it. And I'm just shaking my head, because I mean, that's a lot to take on every week.
Well, that means it's a city controlled function then.
Right.
Right. The thing that we might do is we do have a parks use permit that they approve or that they sign off on. And so we might add conditions, or staff could always add those conditions that were put out by the Oregon Farmers Market organization.
I think
Well-
that'd be a good idea.
What, is there any, in those conditions, could we just be clear that if anything seemed to change or, I don't know, for whatever reason it seemed to become apparent, maybe we shouldn't? I don't know. It would be nice if other things were opening up, I guess.
Well, and if we open that up, are we gonna have to open the restrooms up?
So they have told me they will have hand washing stations. As far as the restrooms, I'll be honest with you, staff, we haven't even gotten to the point of making that recommendation or decision.
Right. But
we're
I just
still-
hearing that Sunday event, we're inviting people out there and there's no access to
Right.
on-site bathrooms.
Yeah. They would be responsible for the porta johns.
Well, they already have some hand washing stations that they plan to have, and again, I think we need to look at the issue of restrooms. We just haven't gotten that far
Right.
yet. We've been so engrossed in budget and other things.
Well,
This kind of pushed it up on the agenda to be.
Well, make
quite
sure
honest.
they know what we can and what will and won't provide.
Right.
And then I did tell them, I said, I mean, I was, my concern was that, well, first of all, I had this conversation when I was on a run out to the park and running along the road because I can't use the park trails. And so I was having a hard time, saying, yes, we can open the farmer's market, but we still can't use the hiking trails in
Right.
town, to be quite honest.
honestly,
do-
that crossed my mind.
But I do think, to Councilor Harris's point, definitely having language that if things change, especially towards the tail end of the market, that we've got language to be able to revoke it.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess, personally, I would just love to see them start. That's not an
Yeah.
issue. I want to see everybody get going.
Right.
But I was thinking the same thing, Jared. I mean, we're going to start that, but the parks aren't open yet. I don't know. I don't know whether that should even coincide.
Yeah.
Well, and technically we never closed our parks. We did close the bathrooms, but the parks are still technically open, just no bathroom and no playground.
Right.
The grass
Okay.
is
The grass
the
is
grass
available.
is still there.
But
Yeah,
to be
well, I guess
clear, I mean,
the
to
other
be
thing
clear,
we
the
want to
challenge-
see is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was
I
going to
was
say,
just
I
gonna
guess
say-
the other thing is, like I said, maybe some language to revoke if we feel like it's becoming a problem. What did I do?
Okay.
No, we all just were laughing because you guys
Oh.
were.
We're laughing because we're both interrupting each other at the same time.
I
Um,
think bottom line is that they must comply with the governor's guidelines for open air markets,
I was going to say, just to make sure that they're doing that and as long as they're following those guidelines, then,
Yeah.
and we're not
Just-
going to have any liability.
The one thing to be aware of with this is that there's a good chance when they open that there will still be state guidelines in place such that no other events can happen in the park.
Yep.
So I just think folks need to understand that, so that, especially the council, because if somebody approaches you and says, well, why can't I have an event? It's because as of right now, those types of gatherings still aren't permitted.
So maybe they could be encouraged to have maybe at each booth or at the main booth, some printout that authorizes that shows the governor's mandate about opening the farmers markets or something, just to say we're doing this per, the guidelines.
And Jared, could we put on like Facebook and maybe in the bridge and just note that to the community? Because I guess that was in the back of my mind was, are people going to be offended that this business gets to start, and I know that we can't fix all that, but I can see some people thinking, well, how come they can and I can't? And maybe we could actually outline those guidelines and announce it so that they understand why we're allowing that now and other things can't.
I agree.
We can, and that was the part that I struggled with, was just, you know, it's.
In fact,
Anyway.
if you can post some of the guidelines, where I saw something somewhere on here that said, you know, you touch it, you buy it, and things
Yeah.
like that. That the rules that they'll have to abide by, and just so that the people that can say yes, they're opening, but you know, they're having to do certain things, and if they're not doing it, then we'll have to go back to them and say, hey, you know, you're not playing fair.
Well, we're also
That's-
talking about the simple fact that they can be open and other things can't.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
think those are the guidelines that we want to educate them on, so they, you know, people understand we're not just letting one group and ignoring another or whatever.
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely. They'll
No one
save you
likes
calls.
losers.
Okay.
That's all I have.
So that
do
doesn't
we need
take-
to vote? We need a motion on that?
That doesn't require any action, does it?
I would say if you can just make a motion to direct the city administrator to move forward with the parks use permit
What do you-
for the Dex Farmers Market.
Somebody want to do that?
I'll make a motion that the city administrator,
Move
Uh,
forward.
moves forward with setting up, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
That's fine.
How
Do we
about-
have a second? Do we have a
I'll say
second?
that. You just say, I'll say it, then you can just say so moved.
So move.
Yeah,
okay.
he said.
Motion to direct the city administrator to move forward with the parks use permit for the Dexter Lake Farmers Market.
What he said, yes.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
so motion by Gail and a second by Bennett.
There you go.
Okay, further discussion. All
He
those,
said the
in fa-
magic word.
all those in favor of having the city administrator move forward with the consideration of park use permits for the Dexter Lake Farmers Market. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Not hearing any. Okay, we finished that. Other business? Not hearing any. Mayor comments? Don't have any. Community comments? Not hearing any. Okay, we're adjourned at 6:10.
See you in a minute.
Okay,
Do we
here's the
have-
tricky
okay.
part. Everyone has to get off this meeting
Yeah,
and then
stop.
go over to the budget
Yeah, stop
committee
it.
meeting.
Yeah, stop recording us.